All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah, welcome back.
So today, we are tackling the world of IPOs.
The initial public offering?
The IPO, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is something that I think is really fascinating because it's such a pivotal moment for a company.
Right, like a coming of age in a way.
Totally. Yeah, it's like, they've been working, in the private sector, building their business. And then suddenly it's like, okay, we're ready to take this to the next level.
We're ready to be judged by the public market.
Exactly. And we've got a source here that kind of lays out the whole process. And there's a lot to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a complex process, but it is kind of interesting how there are these, basic steps that pretty much every company goes through.
So let's break it down. Let's kind of go through it step by step.
That's good.
So first things first, pre-IPO planning, like getting ready for this whole thing.
Yeah, this is crucial.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, laying the foundation for a skyscraper. You got to make sure it's solid.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, if you don't get this right, then
the whole thing could crumble.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, this is where you're really assessing your readiness, looking at your financials, your team, your market position, all that good stuff.
So it's not just about like, okay, are we a successful company? It's also about, are we ready for the kind of scrutiny that comes with?
Absolutely, yeah. Because once you go public, everything's out in the open. Your financials, your strategy, everything.
Transparency.
Exactly. And you also have to, really define your IPO strategy. Like, what are you hoping to achieve by going public?
Now, why are we doing this?
Exactly. What kind of investors do you want to attract? What's the story you want to tell?
So you got to have a good story.
You got to have a good story, and it's got to be a true story, too.
All right. So let's say, you've done all that pre-planning, you've assessed your readiness, you've got a story, you're ready to go. What's the next step?
Well, you need to assemble your team.
Yeah, get your A-team together.
Exactly. And the key players here are going to be your underwriters and your advisors.
Now, explain that a little bit, because I think people hear underwriter and they're like, insurance.
Yeah, no. It's a different kind of underwriter in this case. These are typically investment banks, and they're basically your guides through this whole process.
Oh, okay. So they kind of know the ropes.
They know the ropes. They know the ins and outs, the pitfalls. They've been there, done that.
So they're like the Sherpa leading you up the mountain.
Exactly. Yeah, they're going to help you, determine how much to sell your shares for. They'll connect you with potential investors, and they'll make sure you comply with all the legal and regulatory requirements.
Yeah, because I imagine there's a lot of that.
Oh, yeah, tons of it.
And then what about the advisors? Are those different?
Yeah, so the advisors are more like, your lawyers, your accountants, other specialists who are going to help you with specific aspects of the process.
Oh, okay, got it.
So, they're the ones who are going to make sure all your I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
Make sure you're not, accidentally breaking any laws or anything.
Exactly. Yeah. You got to stay on the right side of the law.
All right. So team assembled underwriters, advisors. Got it. What about this whole thing about financial statements? This is something that our source really emphasizes.
Right. Yeah. I mean, your financial statements are basically your company's report card.
Yeah.
They show how you're doing financially.
And they need to be audited, right?
Absolutely, yeah. You need to have audited financial statements because that gives investors, that independent verification that your numbers are accurate and reliable.
So it's basically saying like, okay, someone else has looked at this.
Exactly. It's like a seal of approval,
Yeah.
And, remember Enron?
Oh, yeah.
That's a classic example of why audited financials are so important.
Yeah, you don't want any surprises later.
Nope. You want everything to be transparent and above board.
Right. So you've got your team, your financials are in order. What's next on this IPO journey?
Well, now it's time to start telling your story.
Oh, well, okay. So now we're getting into like the marketing aspect of it.
Exactly. Yeah. You gotta convince investors that your company is worth investing in.
Right. And our source mentions this document called the prospectus.
Yeah. The prospectus is basically your company's resume for investors.
So it's got all the details.
It's got everything, your business model, your competitive landscape, the risks, the opportunities. It's a comprehensive document.
And it's got to be good, right?
It's got to be good. It's got to be clear. It's got to be compelling. It's got to be accurate.
So I imagine there's a lot of work that goes into crafting this.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You got to really think about who your audience is and what they're looking for.
And speaking of hurdles, our source also mentions these legal and regulatory hurdles, which I'm sure are no joke.
Oh, yeah, the SEC is not messing around.
So you got to make sure you're following all the rules.
Absolutely, yeah. You got to dot your I's and cross your T's and make sure you're not running afoul of any regulations.
All right, so groundwork laid, team assembled, story crafted, legal hurdles cleared. It sounds like we're ready for the main event.
It's showtime.
Showtime, baby. All right, so what does showtime look like in the world of IPOs?
Well, this is where the roadshow comes in.
The roadshow.
Yeah, so this is where you're basically going out and pitching your company to potential investors.
So you're traveling around.
Traveling around, doing presentations, answering questions, really trying to sell your company.
It's like a performance.
It is a performance. You got to be on your A game. You got to be charismatic, you got to be knowledgeable, you got to be able to answer any question they throw at you.
And I imagine while you're doing that, there's this other thing happening, which is the due diligence.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The investors are doing their homework. They're digging into your financials. They're verifying the information in your prospectus. They're talking to your customers. They're doing everything they can to make sure you're the real deal.
So it's like this kind of like a two-pronged approach.
It is. It is.
And then what happens when those two things converge?
Well, that's when you get to the really interesting part, which is investor allocation and book building.
Oh, okay. Break that down for me.
So basically, this is where you decide who gets to invest in your company and how many shares they get.
So you're choosing your shareholders.
You are choosing your shareholders, and, there's a lot of strategy involved here.
Because I imagine you don't just want anybody.
Right. I don't just want anybody. You want investors who align with your company's vision. You want investors who are going to be in it for the long haul.
So you're looking for like long-term partners.
Exactly. Yeah, you're building a relationship here.
Okay, so roadshow, due diligence, investor allocation, book building, all that's done. What's the final step?
Well, the final step is pricing and allocation.
So determining the final price of the shares.
Exactly. And this is, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where all your hard work comes to fruition.
This is the moment of truth.
This is the moment of truth.
Okay, so you've priced your shares, you've allocated them, you're done right.
Well, not quite.
Oh, there's more.
There's more, because going public is not the finish line. It's just the beginning.
It's a whole new chapter.
It's a whole new chapter. And now you have to deal with all the joys of being a public company.
Which are,
ongoing compliance requirements. You got to maintain high standards of corporate governance, financial reporting, transparency. It's a whole new ballgame.
so the scrutiny doesn't go away just because you've gone public?
No. It actually intensifies.
And then you've also got investor relations to think about.
Right. Yeah, you got to keep your shareholders happy. You got to keep them informed. You got to keep them engaged.
So it's like you're constantly communicating with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Communication is key.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
And I think, the IPO process is clearly very complex,
It is.
but also kind of fascinating.
Definitely.
So for anyone out there thinking about taking their company public, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, this is just a taste.
Did your research talk to experts?
Absolutely.
But hopefully we've kind of given you a good overview of what to expect.
Yeah. And the key takeaway, I think, is that going public is a huge decision.
It is a big deal.
It's a big deal, and it's not something to be taken lightly.
Right. It requires a lot of planning, a lot of preparation.
Exactly. And you got to be ready for the long haul.
So if you're thinking about doing it, good luck to you.
Yeah, best of luck.
And to our listeners,
Yeah.
what do you think? What's the most crucial ingredient for a successful IPO? Is it a revolutionary product, a stellar management team, impeccable timing? I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of factors at play.
Yeah, it's a complex equation.
But something to think about. All right, thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
See you next time.
Bye.